Hi, I'm Robert Scheinfeld, and I'd like to give you a very warm welcome to this special page that I created for you. On this page, you'll have an opportunity to discover, perhaps for the first time, what such ideas and concepts as enlightenment, spiritual awakening, illumination, mystical consciousness, presence, there's all kinds of labels, you know what I'm pointing to, of what they really are, what they really aren't, and how to experience directly and consistently, not as a blip, but consistently, the real thing. There are so many myths, or what I call lies, illusions, and stories about what these so-called states of consciousness really are. And there's even more myths and lies, illusions, and stories about the zillions of paths that you supposedly can take that will lead you into that experience. Odds are you already know that intimately from personal experience, from how many paths you've been on that ended up being dead ends, or what I call quicksand pits, where a lot of time, money, energy, and effort were invested, but they ultimately just didn't take you where you want to go. Through this page, you're going to have an opportunity to register for a webinar where you can change all of that permanently. Again, you can discover what enlightenment, I'm just going to use that term for simplicity's sake, really is, what it really isn't, and how to open into a direct and consistent experience of the real thing, avoiding the dead ends, pulling yourself out of the quicksand pit if you happen to be in one, and onto a path that can really get you where you want to go. Now, in this short introductory video, I'm just going to make a couple of brief comments, introductory overview, big picture comments. Right now, I just wanted to sketch with some broad strokes. So let's do that now. Since you found your way here, you must be what I call a seeker of truth, which means someone who's really serious about experiencing what's often called enlightenment, spiritual awakening, illumination, mystical consciousness, presence, and a bunch of other names. For simplicity's sake, I'm simply going to use the word enlightenment for the rest of this introduction. And if you have another preferred term, go ahead and substitute it in your mind. How do you get there into that so-called experience from here, where you are now? That's the critical question. I'm going to answer that question for you and show you how to do it step by step in the webinar. Here are the two big problems as it comes to the phenomenon of enlightenment. Number one, what is enlightenment in the first place? Some people have a good intellectual understanding of what it means. You may be one of those. Some people have no idea what it really means. They just have a kind of vague, warm and fuzzy, attractive, appealing, and they just want it. But they don't really have clarity on what it is. It's just attractive, it's just appealing, it's just something that they want. Some people think that they know what it means, but they don't really. So this is the first problem. What is it? Clarity on what it even is in the first place. The second problem, if there is clarity, is I understand what it is intellectually, but I don't experience it. That's a far more common problem. Is it yours? I want to illustrate the biggest challenge when it comes to enlightenment with this image. So what you're looking at here is two bodies of solid land, if you will, that are separated by water. So it's not easy to get from the left side to the right side. There's no bridge. There's no way to bridge the gap. So let's compare that to what happens on the quest for enlightenment. You've got ideas and concepts and intellectual understanding on this side. And you've got direct experience, actually experiencing enlightenment, so to speak. Experience is not the perfect word, but it's the best word I can really come up with. So you've got direct experience on one side, and you've got ideas and concepts on the other, and they appear to be very far apart. There is a gap between the two of them, a huge gap between understanding what enlightenment is and actually experiencing it. The trick, the big challenge, is how do you jump this gap? How do you bridge this gap? How do you leap this gap? That's the big challenge. Odds are, on your quest for the Enlightenment experience, your quest to leap that gap, jump that gap, transform, if you will, ideas and concepts into a direct experience, the direct experience you desire, that you've tried lots of, let's call them tools, techniques, and strategies. Now those tools, techniques, and strategies have very different names to them, and some of them are what are called modern, and some of them are called ancient, and some of them are called what's in between. But most of them suggest that you go inward and do something in order to become enlightened, to experience enlightenment. And it might be like meditate, or breathing exercises, or visualization of some kind, perhaps combined with these other two, or maybe withdrawing from society into seclusion, darkness, and quiet, and that could be a monastery, that could be a cave, that could be a dark room, whatever. There are endless variations on the going inward theme. These are just some of the common things that appear. You may be aware of or have experienced other variations on the theme. Other tools and techniques are what I call body or energy-centric. And what I mean by that is they recommend things like fasting, or following a specific diet, or taking supplements or tonics or tinctures or remedies of some kind, or having clearings or healings or alignments or vibrational shifts or attunements of various kinds, which sometimes you can do, supposedly, through the supplements, tonics, tinctures, or remedies, sometimes on your own in different ways, and sometimes with the help of someone else with a special skill. Sometimes it involves avoiding or embracing long lists of other things. There are endless variations on this theme too. Again, these are just some of the more common, general ones. Most of those paths, those techniques, those tools, those models, those systems, those approaches end up being dead ends. And I use dead end because it's kind of like this, you're going down a road, you're putting in time and energy, and you think you're going somewhere, and you think you're going to get somewhere, and then the next thing you know, boom, dead end, and you've got to turn around, backtrack, and then go try and find some other road that you can go down that hopefully will take you where you want to go. The odds are you know that from personal experience in your quest for enlightenment and other, let's say, goodies on the spiritual path. Sometimes it's not a dead end, but it's what I call a quicksand pit. Now, what's a quicksand pit? Well, a quicksand pit, that you see this sand, and it looks solid, and it looks safe, and it looks like you can walk on it to get where you're going, but the next thing you know, you find out it's not solid, and you're sinking. And the natural tendency is to want to struggle and effort and do something to try to get out of the quicksand. But the more you effort, the more you do, the more you try, the more stuck you become. And ultimately, if you're in a quicksand pit, someone ultimately has to lend you a hand, give you a stick, help pull you out, because it's not possible to do it yourself. And this is something that I have experienced many times on my journey, and I know that many other people have, in the way that it feels. Of course, it's not really a quicksand pit, but it can feel like that. I'm going down this path. I'm wanting to experience enlightenment, mystical consciousness, whatever it is. And the next thing I know, I'm stuck in this thing and I'm struggling. And the more I'm struggling, the more stuck I get. And you get the idea of what I'm trying to point to here. It's kind of like, another way of looking at it would be, it's kind of like dogs at the track, the quest for enlightenment. Now, if you look in the foreground, it's a little blurry what the red arrow's pointing to, but what that is a mechanical rabbit. And dogs on the track are trained and conditioned to chase after this rabbit. But no matter how fast they run, no matter how hard they try, no matter how bad they want it, no matter how hard they train, no matter what they eat, no matter what kind of a kennel they live in, no matter what they do, they're never going to catch the rabbit. Because by design, it is always kept just out of reach. So they're never going to get the rabbit. They're endlessly chasing it. And the quest for enlightenment, again, for me and for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people throughout the world, perhaps millions throughout history, that's what it's like. I'm efforting, I'm doing stuff, I'm doing all these things I'm being told about. I'm chasing after that enlightenment rabbit, but I just can't seem to catch it, no matter what I do. The other metaphor would be the old kind of hamster on a wheel, although we see a man here, which is the same kind of a thing. It's effort, 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 push, 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 run, 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 but not actually get anywhere, just go in circles. This is how, again, the quest often feels, and it did to me. It can drive you crazy. And again, it drove me crazy for I can't even tell you how many decades. So then another critical question is, continuing the metaphors, how can you get off that wheel? How can you get off the track? How can you get out of the quicksand pit? Stop chasing this rabbit that you're never going to catch and get onto a road, referring back to dead ends, that really can get you where you want to go, that really can help you to experience. And again, it's not really experiencing, but that's the best word I can use, enlightenment and spiritual awakening, or whatever term you prefer. That's precisely what I'll share with you in the webinar, and so much more.